Nodosaurus. Welcome, guys, once again to the channel Ranking with Dinosaurs, where we rank, you guessed it. If you said dinosaurs, you are correct. Today, we're going to be talking about a rather sometimes, I want to say, overshadowed group, especially by their relatives. Everyone raves about their, clubbed tails. But I believe Nodosaurs have their own charms. They are awesome looking ankylosaurs, and I think they are very distinct between each other. Actually, you would think they would look this almost the same, not like a certain other ankylosaur group. But today we're gonna rank them. And we're gonna see who is the best Nodosaur out of this 8, because there are definitely more. But we're gonna be starting with Edmontonia. Now we're gonna be starting our tier list with Edmontonia, one of the most popular, I would say, Nodosaurs that we've discovered. This guy's from the late Cretaceous, from Edmonton. Yes, I believe it's in Canada. So yeah, Edmonton from Canada. This guy is, their general body plan is basically almost the same between all ankylosaurs. I said almost because there are some exceptions, but these are bulky, broad, and very tank-like animals. For Edmontonia specifically, there are a couple of species, Longiceps and Rugosidans. Yes, I think I said that correctly. I'm actually going to show you right here. I have a figure of Edmontonia, pretty awesome. If you want to get yours, I'll let you know in the comments where you can get it. But first of all, you got the armor on the back. You got these are small oval, ridged, like bony plates that are covering its whole back right here. You can see them. Now, I'd say small, but in real life, they would be like, I don't know, I want to say this big. It actually has like a pear-looking head. If you're looking from above, it's very funny. And you can see the what you call the ring plates that are covering its neck. So this would act as some kind of neck protection, because these guys, again, they're not very fast. You can see they have very short limbs, so they weren't very fast on their legs. You can see the sharp spikes along the sides. These were, again, probably used for protection or intimidation. As every weird dinosaur trait we find, we don't know exactly what it was used for, but probably that. These guys, we also find like ossified cheek plates, like plates that go over the cheeks, protecting them too. I can't remember what that was used for, or what the consensus is on that, but they do have those, especially in Rugosidans has been found. And again, yes, the lack of a tail club is very very apparent here. So Edmontonia, I think I'm gonna start with an A tier. I love Edmontonia. It's iconic, it's pretty awesome looking. It's got awesome spikes. Yeah, A tier. Gastonia. Now, moving on, we got a polacanthine, yes, which means it's related to Polacanthus, another famous nodosaurid from Europe. But I wanted to call it Gastonia. I think it's much cooler. There's more fossils of it as well. But this guy's from the Cedar Formation in the USA. We've talked about the Cedar Formation in another previous video about North American formations. Go check that one out. It's pretty awesome. And yes, this guy did live with the famous Utahraptor, where it had unaccountable amount of fights. So this guy is a medium-sized nodosaur, not as big as Edmontonia. I think this guy's like 16 feet. And it had a ton of crazy-looking spikes. We found a ton of fossils of Edmontonia, which actually contradicts a notion that we have of ankylosaurs, because paleontologists suggest and think that ankylosaurs were mostly solitary creatures, which makes sense. They're heavily armored. I don't by their short limbs, they look like they don't travel very long distances. But there's a lot of Gastonia's fossil concentration, like in the Cedar Formation. So it's actually suggested that it might have not traveled in groups, but being more of a herd animal. So yeah, Gastonia has a kind of a longish neck for an ankylosaur, actually, and it has a small head as well. So it kind of, you know, those are very two weird things about Gastonia. You can see this like shield kind of part here on their posterior, where, if I remember correctly, I think I've seen the fossils of Polacanthus, and this bone plate, big ass bone plate, is a solid structure which grows from their vertebrae or their ribs, something like that. It looks very weird. It kind of looks like a turtle skeleton from the inside. But it does have these blades on their tail. Again, no club, but these things, I mean, swinging them, they would kind of like cut you like scissors. I don't know. Gastonia is pretty awesome. I have to put it in A. It's an awesome animal. MYMOORPELTA. We're going to be moving on. And this is an ankylosaur, Nodosaurid, from the Morrison Formation. Yes, you heard it right. The Morrison Formation. So, which means is that this guy was alive during the late Jurassic. Yes, this is weird. You might be thinking, for those of you who don't know, you might be thinking, well, why is that weird? Well, ankylosaurs, which encompasses nodosaurids, usually thrived. And when I say thrived, is that they've been found in almost every place in the world. And that is the Cretaceous. So, finding one in the late Jurassic, which is it's in the previous period, is pretty like interesting, insane, like eye-opening. It's simply crazy. When I found out about MYMOORPELTA, I've known about MYMOORPELTA, but you know, when you think about the Morrison, you don't think about, you know, ankylosaurs. But speaking now of MYMOORPELTA, this is the most complete fossil. Is actually the hull types. The first one we found. We found a ton of, not a ton, but 5 different armor types, you know, disarticulated, but we found that there's 5 different ones only on the MYMOORPELTA. And that's interesting because this guy is probably one of the earliest Nodosaurids. Again, it's a previous period. And it's actually as well one of the smallest one too, at like, I think only 10 feet. So we found osteoderms, partial skull, and some vertebrae too. It had a narrow triangular head, so very triangular, small head, and it had 2 brow horns pointing back and 2 jugular bones horns that were pointing sideways, back, and down. So downward, backward, sideways. You got it. So MYMOORPELTA, I like it. It's pretty interesting. However, we don't have a ton of it. I'm going to put it in B tier. SAUROPELTA. Now, I'm going to be moving on to the early Cretaceous of North America with SAUROPELTA. This guy is one of the most, I want to say, well understood Nodosaurids, anatomically speaking. It has been recovered in Wyoming, parts of Utah, Montana, so a ton of places. And this guy lived with Acrocanthosaurus and Deinonychus, so right at the gate had to fight some nasty things. And this guy's a 20 feet Nodosaur, so comparable in size to EDMONTONIA. It had a very long tail, distinctively long tail, which made up like almost half of its body length. So think about that. That's almost 10 feet of just tail, which is very slender too. Again, no tail club. These are nodosaurs. So, they're actually, as well, for being so compact, these guys were 2 tons, which is the same as a rhino. Why did I say a rhino? I don't know, but, you know, 2 tons, even though it's smaller than a rhino. Like, in terms of, you know, it's not as tall. So, and, you know, when you have such a long tail, usually tails are not that heavy, but, you know, but you know, all that mass and all that weight is coming from all their body armor, you know, all their plates, their bony plates, and their large freaking spines. I gotta say, this guy has some insane spines coming up from their necks and almost their shoulders. So that kind of gives me like Wyangosaurus vibes. Yeah, or Gigantospinosaurus vibes from their shoulder spikes, which go really, really, really long. I mean, they had to have some defense against freaking Acrocanthosaurus. But yeah, Sauropelta, I believe I like it a lot, honestly. Um, Again, we have a pretty good picture of what they look like. I want to say, do I want to put it in A tier? Am I putting everything in A tier? Do I put it in S tier? I think, can I put it in S tier? DENVERSAURUS. Now, moving on to DENVERSAURUS. This is a late Maastrichtian nodosaur from Western North America. What that means is that it probably lived, well, probably no. I think it's been discovered in the Hell Creek formation, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember that. Let me know in the comments if I'm saying that correctly. But yeah, this guy is now distinctly known as DENVERSAURUS because before it was thought to be a junior synonym of Edmontonia. And, I thinking why? Well, basically, these guys look almost the same. There are some little differences, like because the actual skull, the whole type of DENVERSAURUS was actually a little crushed. We found a skull, lower jaw, and some osteoderms. That's what the holotype material is. But because the skull is a little crushed and it looks a lot like Edmontonia, people were like, yeah, this is just Edmontonia. But it's actually a different genus. And again, if it lived in the Hell Creek, because I believe it's in Hell Creek, if I'm not mistaken, this guy must have had a different niche than Ankylosaurus, for example. Definitely a different niche. And yeah, this guy, I mean, it looks like Edmontonia. I mean, from all the material and the reconstructions we have of it. This is the last member as well of Thyrophorina, apparently. Like, the last one that evolved. So, that's pretty sad. This is the last bastion of Nodosaurs. Or, again, Thyrophorin in general. But yeah. I mean, the thing with DENVERSAURUS is that, again, it looks like Edmontonia. It is reconstructed as Edmontonia. So, can I put it in C tier? I'm sorry. HUNGAROSAURUS. Now, this guy is a nodosaurid from Western Hungary. And, yes, in Europe. So, Europe is not the first place we think about, or you think about when we talk about Ankylosaurs, or in this context, Nodosaurs. Usually you think about, the North American ones, a ton of them, or Asian ones, even more of them. But now, Europe did have a lot of Ankylosaurs, and HUNGAROSAURUS is one of them. Again, this guy's from the Shibania. I think I'm butchering that pronunciation, but I'm going to say it's Shibania Formation, where, it's not very fossil, insanely rich like other ones, but, there's some dromaeosaur teeth and raptidon teeth, which makes me think of, Hattig Island. So I wouldn't be surprised if we found a giant Asdarkid that roamed over there. But it is the most completely known nodosaurid from Europe, actually. It's a herbivore, has all ankylosaurs and nodosaurs, with hundreds of osteoderms. And there's 4 specimens that have been found of this guy. We can see it had a very ornamented face. So, they had that pattern that made the little osteoderms on top of their heads. Made like a little, puzzle pattern, I want to say. It looks really cool. If you get a chance to check out look at a ankylosaur skull, it is pretty neat looking with the osteoderms on top. But one of the coolest things about this guy is that it had unusually long forelimbs. Like, when I say unusually, I think they were much taller than their hind limbs, which makes it look like when I see it, I just see like a sitting horse or a sitting dog. That's what it reminds me of. I thought it was sitting down, but no, that's just how they look, which is, very unusual for ankylosaurs. But HUNGAROSAURUS, I mean, where do I want to put HUNGAROSAURUS? I think I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it in B tier. I don't think it's as cool or as iconic as Edmontonia and Gastonia, but definitely much better than DENVERSAURUS. BOREALOPELTA. Now, the Northern Shield. This guy is from the Lower Cretaceous of Alberta. There's a single species known from a single specimen which is the most well preserved freaking nodosaur or dinosaur of its like size. Like for the size of this nodosaur, the amount of preservation it maintained is insane. This is known as the Suncor nodosaur, BOREALOPELTA. Um, Starting by, this guy had his whole armor was intact as it was in life. So, as it was, I'm gonna show you right here. This guy is based on the actual specimen. So I believe, like from here over here, like almost to the tip of the snout, almost to the back right here, right before the tail. I can't remember if it's the tail, but yes, like right around here. All of this was preserved, and we can tell it was like this because that is all in the fossil, just as it is. It is a print of the actual animal in real life. It's insane. Like, this is such an insane find. This is what paleontologists first and foremost, but us as enthusiasts love to see. These types of discoveries are amazing for us. But yeah, not only were the armor like this, all the keratin sheets on top of the bony cores were also preserved. Like all these, like the size of in real life of the spikes of the bony plates, those were all there like this. We can have some overlying skin and the stomach contents that he ate before it sadly died, which were ferns. So it was a ferny movie, just eating ferns. Paleontologists even could find the melanosomes. Yes, the melanosomes, what gives pigmentation to the skin. We could find that it was actually a reddish, pinkish tone of color, just like this model right here. Reddish, and nodosaur. Pretty awesome. I love this model. The way that it died. I mean, apparently it died and probably sank out when it was washed out in the ocean, probably after a flood, and it struggled until it died. Sunky, it will be remembered. Moment of silence for him. BOREALOPELTA. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in S tier, but it's gonna be a solid. You know what? I'm gonna put it in top of A tier. STEGOUROS. Now, yes, put down your torches. I know what you're saying. STEGOUROS is not a nodosaur, and you're right. You are absolutely right. But I'm cheating a little bit here. I'm cheating a little bit because I want to talk about STEGOUROS, and STEGOUROS belongs to a little family known as Parancalosauria. Now, Parancalosauria is inside Ankylosauria, but it's not Ankylosaurs or Nodosaurs. And sadly, we've only found, I think there's only 3 named genus from this little group right here, which is HUNGAROSAURUS, Untitled and STEGOUROS. And I want to talk about them because I'm not gonna make a tier list of three animals only. So STEGOUROS, or generally, it's gonna be in this tier list. STEGOUROS, but to give you just in 2 words, freaking awesome. This is a little guy. This guy's from the Dorotea Formation, so late Cretaceous in Chile. So a South American from Gondwana. Small Gondwanan little guy. Got a near complete skeleton. Almost articulated as well. Not, I don't think so, but yeah, I think nearly articulated complete skull. This is a little dude, 6 feet long, so kind of like a dog. And yeah, I know I say most of my collection right here is up to scale, like they scale with each other, but this guy's a little too big for that. But I just had to buy it. It looks awesome. This little guy, their head was proportionally longer than other ankylosaurs. You can see it much bigger with a little body. They had hundreds of osteoderms as well. I think these don't look as tightly packed as other ankylosaurs or nodosaurs. So they were more not as packed tightly. So they were probably just a little deterrent for from predators, and because they had longer limbs, I believe they could, with their smaller size, they could be, run away much quicker than the big ones. But yeah, again, one of the coolest features of Stegouros or Parenchylosaura is their tails. They were not as long as other ankylosaurs, as the bigger ones, but the last caudal vertebrae right here from the tail, they were fused, and they were like kind of flat like this, and they formed this, what a lot of people say is like a macuajito, which is that ancient Aztec weapon, which is made of a club with like obsidian blades on the sides. Friggin' sick. And Stegouros has that. Pretty awesome. I don't think it would have used it necessarily to fight off like predators, because these guys were not too big. So I don't know how much damage that could have done. Maybe for a small predator, but probably for intraspecific combat or something like that, or ritualistic combat. These guys are awesome. Stegouros is awesome. This is a I don't know if this is controversial. I'm gonna put it in S tier. So that is gonna be the Nodosaur tier list plus Parenchylosaura. And yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think of the tier list? Again, this is my own opinion. You gotta got your own opinion, so you gotta let me know in the comments what is your favorite Nodosaur, or if it's a Parenchylosaur. And what would be your tier list? Let me know in the comments which ones did I miss, because I know I missed a lot of Nodosaurs. Again, if you want a part 2, let me know. Or what other videos do you want me to make tier lists on? Yep, so please, guys, like the video. Helps a lot. Subscribe. It helps even more. And I'm going to see you on the next video, guys. See you in the next one.